Welcome to our deep dive into Jane Eyre. It's a story that takes us through all the ups and downs of a young woman in Victorian England. Really excited to unpack this one. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely captivating. You've got the romance, you've got the social commentary, even like some Gothic
Oh,
elements.
yeah, for sure. So,
Yeah.
okay, we start with Jane as a young orphan, right? Can you, set the scene for us?
Well, right away, right from the beginning, you see Jane having a tough childhood. She's living with her aunt, Mrs. Reed, who's not very nice to her.
Yeah, okay, that's rough. What are those early chapters like for Jane, then? What's going on?
It's hard. There's Bessie, a servant who's kind to her, but even that it's not enough to erase the trauma she has, especially from that Red Room incident.
The Red Room. That sounds kind of ominous. What is that exactly?
So they lock her in this room. That's where her uncle died as a punishment. And she's like terrified, right? Convinced she's seeing his ghost. And well, she eventually just faints. That whole experience is really important in the book. It shows just how vulnerable she is. But it also kind of hints at, an inner strength that she has. And in the end, it's why she gets sent away. To Lowood Institution, it's a school for orphans.
So, okay, so she goes from this cold household to like a charitable institution. What's that like? Lowood, I mean.
Lowood. Well, it's not exactly a paradise. Let's just say that. The conditions are awful. There's not enough food. The clothes are terrible. Everyone's always getting sick. And then you've got Mr. Brocklehurst, the headmaster, and he's just a hypocrite. All about piety and preaching, but, living comfortably while the kids suffer.
That sounds terrible. I mean, is there anything good at Lowood? Anything hopeful for Jane?
I mean, yeah, there's Helen Burns. Another student, they become close. Helen teaches Jane about being resilient, about forgiveness. Their friendship is really a bright spot for Jane. But then there's a typhus epidemic, and, well, Helen, she gets consumption and dies. It really affects Jane even later on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot for someone so young. Does Lowood, improve at all after that?
Yeah, it does, actually. Mr. Brocklehurst, his hypocrisy is exposed, so he has to leave. And slowly, things get better. Eventually, Jane becomes a teacher there. But, after 8 years, 6 as a student, 2 as a teacher, she decides to leave, find something else, something new. So she advertises for a job, a governess position, and that's how she ends up at Thornfield Hall.
Thornfield, that's where Mr. Rochester is, right? That mysterious guy.
Yep, exactly. She gets to Thornfield. She's going to be taking care of Adele Virens, this little girl. She's under Rochester's care. And, of course, she meets Rochester pretty quickly.
He's such an interesting character, so brooding. What's it like when they first meet? I mean, what's their dynamic?
Oh, from the beginning, it's interesting. They're both witty, intelligent. They spar a little. He really likes how independent and smart she is. And she's fascinated by him too. But, I mean, he's also a challenge for her in a way.
And Thornfield itself, right? It's got all these, secrets and strange things happening.
Definitely. Weird noises. There's a fire in Rochester's room at one point. Grace Poole, one of the servants, she seems to be hiding something. It's all very suspicious, Like something else is going on, something we don't know yet.
So we've got this interesting setting, this mysterious guy, and Jane, who, she stands up for herself. So what's next for her at Thornfield? What happens?
Well, things get a little complicated when Blanche Ingram shows up. She's beautiful, she's rich, seemingly perfect for a man like Rochester. And Jane, watching them, she starts to think, okay, they're going to get married.
Ah, yeah, the love triangle. Classic. How does Jane handle that?
Heartbreak, of course. She realizes she has feelings for Rochester, real feelings, but she's also sure that she can't compete with Blanche, so she just tries to push her feelings down, focus on Adele.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. Does Rochester propose to Blanche? Is that what happens?
He doesn't, actually. No, he proposes to Jane.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. Jane's completely shocked, doesn't believe it at first, but she loves him, so, in the end, she says yes.
So last time, right, we ended on this crazy cliffhanger, this interruption at the wedding.
Yeah.
What happened? What's the truth about this, Mr. Mason?
Well, get this. Turns out Rochester is already married to Mr. Mason's sister, Bertha Mason. She's alive, but not well mentally. And Rochester has her locked up in the attic of Thornfield.
Whoa, okay, so all that weird stuff happening at Thornfield, that was Bertha.
Yeah, exactly. The noises, the laughter, that fire in Rochester's room, Rochester, he tries to explain it, says he was tricked into marrying her, that she got worse, and he was, stuck in this dangerous marriage he didn't want.
So he's saying he's a victim.
Yeah, that's his story. But I don't know, it's complicated, right? I mean, was it right to lock her away? Could he have done something else? It's a question of, well, morality, I guess, responsibility.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
What about Jane? How does she take all of this?
She's crushed, obviously. And even though Rochester begs her to stay, she can't. She refuses. It goes against everything she believes in, to be with a married man.
So she leaves, even though she's in love with him.
She does. It breaks her heart, but it also shows how strong she is. You know, she knows it's wrong to stay. And leaving Thornfield, that's a big turning point for her. She's got nothing, no money, nowhere to go. She's literally wandering around, hungry, tired, just, I mean, totally lost.
Man, that's harsh. Does anyone help her? Did she find anyone?
Yeah, eventually. Just when things are really bad, she comes across this house. It's the Rivers siblings, Mary, Diana, and St. John, and they're good people. They take her in, take care of her.
Okay, good. At least that's something. It's better than how her aunt treated her or at Lowood.
Right. With them, she finally feels like she has a family, people who care about her. They all like literature, learning, like Jane. They really connect. And then, well, something pretty crazy happens. They make this discovery.
Oh, notice.
They find out they're related. Jane and the Rivers, they're cousins, and they have inherited a bunch of money from an uncle who died. Suddenly, Jane's an heiress.
Wow. Okay, talk about a turn of events. So what happens with all that? The money, the family.
It's good, you know? She likes being with her cousins, having some independence. But then St. John, he's a clergyman, he asks Jane to marry him.
Another guy. What's his deal?
Well, he's not really in love with her. He just thinks she'd be a good wife for a missionary, like for his work in India. He admires her, thinks she'd be useful.
So it's not about love for him. It's like practical.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Duty, that kind of thing. And Jane, she doesn't know what to do. St. John, he's a good guy, reliable. But she doesn't have feelings for him.
Right. Right. So it's like, do you follow your heart or choose what seems safer?
Oh, exactly. And in the end, she says no. Like with Rochester, she can't just ignore her heart. She wants real love, not just, doing what's expected.
Good for her.
Oh.
So does she stay with the Rivers then?
She thinks about it, but then one night she hears this voice calling her name, and it's Rochester. Somehow she hears him all the way from Thornfield.
What? No way. That's crazy. What does she do?
She goes back to Thornfield. I mean, she has to, right? She feels this pull, like there's something she needs to do.
Okay, and what does she find? What's happened?
Thornfield, it's gone, burned to the ground.
Oh, wow. What about Rochester?
Bertha, she set the fire and she died in it. And Rochester, he tried to save her, but he got hurt really badly. He lost a hand and he's blind.
So they've both lost so much, both of them. What happens to them then?
Rochester, he's withdrawn. He's at Ferndean, this other house he has. And that's where Jane finds him. He's broken. But still the same Rochester, the man she fell in love with.
And Jane, she goes back to him, not because she feels sorry for him, but because, well, they have this connection, right? Something that goes beyond all the bad stuff that happened.
Yeah, exactly. They find each other again, and it's hopeful. They understand each other's pain, and they love each other.
So maybe this is their happy ending, even after everything.
Maybe. They can finally be together, build a life on their own terms.
Wow. What a story. I can't wait to see what happens next. Guess we'll have to find out in part 3 of our deep dive into Jane Eyre. When we left off, Jane had just found Rochester at Ferndean. It was like they've both been through so much. I mean, just everything.
Oh, absolutely. Societal pressures, all the things that happened to them, their own, struggles. But it's like it all just made their connection stronger somehow.
So what's it like when they see each other again? At Ferndean, I mean.
It's a really interesting mix of, sadness and happiness. They get each other. They understand each other's pain. And Rochester, I mean, he's different now. He's not so, domineering. He's been through a lot. He's vulnerable, and that lets them, I think, be more equal.
So that, power dynamic they had before, it's gone.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's important because now Jane, she's got her own money. She's independent. She doesn't need him to take care of her. She's choosing him because she wants to, because she loves him.
Right. So it's a different kind of love now, like a real partnership.
Exactly. And this time when they get married, it's a true partnership. They're equals. They share everything, the good, the bad, all of it.
What about Bertha? Is she still part of their story, even though she's gone?
That's a good question. I mean, she's not physically there, obviously. But what happened to her, it's definitely still there, like this reminder of how women were treated back then, all the secrets, the way marriage worked, and, well, mental illness too, all those things, they were a big part of Victorian society.
So even though Jane and Rochester get their happy ending, the world that caused them so many problems, it's still the same.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of why people still connect with Jane Eyre today. It makes you think about social justice, how women are treated, what love really means, being free. It's all still relevant.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's just so much going on in the book. Love, social class, morality, even that Gothic stuff, the mystery, all of it.
And don't forget the religious stuff too. I mean, it's there from the beginning, the way Jane sees religion, the choices she makes, how she connects with nature. Bronte really explores like what faith means, what your conscience tells you. It's pretty complex.
So how does it all end? What happens to Jane and Rochester?
It's a happy ending, but it's also, realistic. They find happiness, but it's a happiness they built together after going through so much. And Rochester, he gets some of his sight back. Not all of it, but some. It's like symbolic. Like Jane brought light back into his life. And they have a son, so they have a family.
So it's hopeful, but it also doesn't forget all the tough stuff they went through.
Exactly. And that's, I think, why Jane Eyre is such a powerful book. It shows the dark parts of life, the struggles. But in the end, it's a story about hope, being strong, and how love can change you.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those books that stays with you. Makes you think about your own life, what you believe in, what love means to you, all of that.
I agree. Jane Eyre is a classic for a reason. It makes you question things, think about what society tells you to do, how you feel, all those big questions. And in the end, it's about being yourself, making your own choices.
Well said. I think that's a great place to end our deep dive into Jane Eyre. Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it.